Okay, welcome, welcome. All right. Y'all can hear me okay, yeah? Excellent. Well, welcome. Good voice. I appreciate that. I'm sure you have an excellent voice too. All right. Last bit of order before we get started is, yep, I see that we have this going. So I'm just going to copy this link. And in the, what is it, stage board, I'm going to paste in the link to the YouTube live stream. That way people can live stream via YouTube as well, share my screen. That's some fantastic artwork right there. All right. Very good. All right, hold on just a second here. More excellent artwork. All right, guys, just another minute or so, and then we're going to get started into the nuts and bolts of the AMA. All right. Well, we'll start there. So welcome to the Sphere Finance Weekly Community AMA. This is week 1. So, we're going to talk about Galaxy Marketplace a little bit, Dyson, and then Voice of the Customer, VOC. So the general format of these AMAs, I want to talk about things that Core would like to address, at least what's been going on throughout the week. Just a sec here. Voice of Community, yep. Thank you for that correction. So yeah, VOC, Voice of the Community. Core updates, Voice of the Community. Audio, question mark. Do we have good audio? Okay. Okay, very good, very good. Yeah, so core updates, Voice of the Community. And then there is the Q&A section here in Sphere Finance that I will go through. And then if we have time at the end, can go through those questions as well. All right. Very good. So let's get started. I'm going to be reading off this over here, and just in general, we can kind of listen in. I'll be taking a look at the chat as well. So first and foremost, some core updates. Galaxy Marketplace bonds are just around the corner. We're going to start with buying bonds. So, for example, buying Sphere with USDC. That USDC will be converted to USD Plus and can be used for buyback burning, going into the treasury, and also, okay, buyback burns treasury and also liquidity. So that's how those bonds will be kind of separated. And of course, the Sphere, as you may know, coming into that Galaxy Marketplace will be going, or coming from the taxes. All right, Dyson as well has a lot of solid work done on it, and we're talking about auto compounding and maximizing strategies for Penrose and Balancer, for example. So that is around the corner as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that later because Voice of the Community questions have come up for that. So we're going to dive into that some more. Penrose and Unknown, those are being worked on front end and I believe back end as well, trying to solidify out a lot of these bugs that people have reported. And we'll talk about those as well in terms of Voice of the Community. And then one thing we wanted to touch upon extremely late, if you can get 614. I'm sorry, yeah. Just to comment on this, I know this is late for a lot of people, but it will be live streamed to YouTube, which means that it's automatically recorded and then posted on YouTube. So if you can't watch it, if you can't attend, you'll be able to see it later. I should have said that right out front. I'm live streaming this on YouTube, so you'll be able to see it later. It'll be recorded. So if you can't watch it now, that is okay. Talk faster. Okay. All right. Sure thing. Sure thing. I'll talk faster. um, bugs, bugs in these different products are to be expected to some degree, even after testing. That's one point that we wanted to make. Uh, the Sphere team is putting a lot of work into creating these products for you guys, and at times, bugs will just happen, and we have to deal with those. Um, and we appreciate your feedback for that. That's another reason for these AMAs, for the voice of the community, where we're gathering everything that you guys are talking about. Yes, yes. Um, no, yes, yep. All right. So enough about that. I want to get into the voice of the community because these are all these. So basically, voice of the community is everything that we've collected. The mods have gone through things that we have picked up on, noticed that you've had concerns about, generalized questions. So want to address all of these as best as I can. So first and foremost, the ecosystem in general. So products are indeed tested before launch, and like I had mentioned, bugs are unfortunate, but normal to a degree, even after testing. So we absolutely appreciate the feedback that you guys provide as you're using these different DeFi projects, reporting these to us. Incredibly helpful and incredibly useful because we want to make that user experience very efficient and seamless. Yes, they're not bugs, they're unannounced features. Exactly. But yeah, sometimes these fixes require more work and time than just a quick fix. Um, so yeah, to clarify, we are testing scenarios and we have code coverage over the code, but sometimes abstract issues can occur. And when the product is released, sometimes those abstract issues come to play. Uh, and actually, we'll touch on that a little bit later as well in terms of the Zap feature, because I know a lot of people had questions about that. So we'll come back around to that in terms of that particular concern. So, okay, let's move, Mystic. Let's move on to Dystopia and Penrose. So one thing we wanted to talk about just in general, oh, nice, I didn't know we had this. Just in general about Dystopia, Penrose, Cone, Unknown, is that these are tools for project overlap and liquidity bootstrapping because of their tokenomics. So what does that mean exactly? We have a hold on governance over these protocols, so we can incentivize and bribe liquidity for all future Polygon and Binance ventures thanks to these projects. We're really talking about building the infrastructure to then move forward throughout all of DeFi. That's a narrative we've been discussing for quite some time, is about building this infrastructure. And Dystopia, Penrose, Cone Unknown, these are core infrastructure projects on Polygon and Binance respectively that are, they're very good products. And, we'll talk about it more in terms of the current market conditions, but we're working with it as it is. So actually, that's really the next point. The entire market is bleeding out, right? The traditional finance market, cryptocurrency, and then DeFi. And it really is that hierarchy. We are on the bottom of the ladder, and all these markets are getting bled dry. And unfortunately, we have to work our way through that. Now, we've been able to thrive quite well with our treasury and our investments. You can take a look at the dashboard page and how we are doing, and that doesn't even show the full story. But in this market that we are in, everyone is struggling. And to kind of make that point, I actually wanted to show you the Convex token. Everyone knows Convex, everyone knows Curve, 1 inch. If you look up these tokens, CRV, CVX, 1 inch, I have CVX here just as an example, from its high back before the bear market to where it is now, we're talking about an over 90% drop. So the entire market is really getting bled dry by this bear market. It's very unfortunate, but we have to continue building, continue pushing forward, and doing the best that we can, and that's exactly what we're doing. So I just wanted to make that point because there's been a lot of questions and concerns about Dystopia and Penrose and the liquidity and the price, and all of these different things. And I just need to point out, check these other projects and protocols. It is not just Sphere. Unfortunately, the entire DeFi market is bleeding. We're at the bottom of the rung when it comes to liquidity. Right now, people are not thinking, where can I put my liquidity? They're thinking, how can I withdraw and save my liquidity? So that is the market we're dealing with. Okay, so let's exit out of that. So that is one thing I really wanted to hit home on. And then one thing too, even within that, in terms of Dystopia and Polygon, I'm sure you've seen these messages for yeah, getting right there, Sim. These messages from Dystopia. If you're on their Discord, they are doing weekly Matic incentives for people who buy and lock DYST. So you can be eligible to receive a weekly airdrop of up to $5,000 spread out over these people who are locking DYST. That's a lot of incentive. So there are different things that we're trying to do to help incentivize that, even in the midst of this market. So I think that's important to take note on as well. Nice falling asleep too. Well, I'm sorry, I guess it is how it is. Another question I saw within this voice of the community was concerns about Polygon and the Polygon network. What you got to understand is Polygon is a massive Ethereum scaling platform. It is highly scalable, and you can look this up. It's public information. There are large brands adopting Polygon as their blockchain of choice, including Coca-Cola. So this is not a small, insignificant blockchain that we have chosen to work with. This is a blockchain that is a highly scalable tool that is going to be around for the long term. So who had concerns? Yeah, exactly. Right. So, Polygon is a great chain, and, cheap fees, very cheap gas fees. So, Polygon's where it's at. And then finally, within this Dystopia Penrose, and then we'll move on to some other things, is just the routing issues on Dystopia. Those have been addressed. Many of those issues have been fixed already, but that was part of the concern, so I did just want to mention it. Other bug issues. So the Zap feature was there initially, then a lot of us, I'm sure, saw it was taken away. So just in speaking generally, it encountered an issue, and it had to be taken down to protect users, and is being reworked. So we're not taking away the Zap feature completely, but we want to make sure that it can be, functional, fully functional. Other concerns, pen bribes, unknown bribes. Yeah, I love the Zapsung function too. Don't worry, it is being worked on. Pen bribes, unknown bribes, still being worked on. I saw a note for having a My Liquidity toggle in Penrose. I think it's a good idea and can be considered. So that was a note on that within the voice of the community. And then the whole voting user interface, this hasn't been discussed in full, but I would imagine it's likely going to be reworked after the bribe system is finalized to help improve how voting is carried out through both Pen and Unknown and these other liquidity services. Yeah, the big question is always when, but we have to realize that, kind of how I referenced in my behind the scenes video, we want to make sure that we're doing this accurately, as right as we can. We want to make sure that we're going through the testing that we can to make sure that these products are working to the best of our ability, because then, of course, that reduces the amount of bugs that we encounter. So all of these things we have to take into consideration. So moving on to the next section, Cone Unknown, just kind of briefly to talk about this. Cone and Unknown are also being worked on by their respective teams, looking to improve functionality both in the front end and the back end. So not much additional to share on that. Some very similar to Dystopia and Penrose. It's not as though we are producing these products and moving on to the next one, trying to push out as many products as we can to build up this ecosystem. Quite the contrary, we're creating an ecosystem, and then we're expanding that ecosystem. So in doing that, my goodness, man, in doing that, it takes time. It takes time to tailor to this ecosystem we've created, and this is part of that, right? This community AMA. All right. So some other fun topics. Will PT read this? Um, okay. Uh, it's pretty good. This took some work. I appreciate that. All right. All right. All right. All right. Moving swiftly forward, y'all. Okay. So Sphere. Let's talk a little bit about Sphere. Everyone wants to know about Bernie, buyback burns. PT laughs like Sim. I'll take that as a compliment. I do appreciate that. Buyback burns, still a work in progress. We've talked about improved logic for Bernie, but don't forget Bernie is not alone. The Galaxy Marketplace, a portion of those earnings are going to burn Sphere. They're going to liquidity. Dyson Farm, portion of that is going to liquidity, to buying burning Sphere. The rest is going to the Treasury. What is the Treasury doing? You can check the dashboard. It's compounding, earning more funds that can be then used to fund Bernie. So Bernie is still a thing. It hasn't gone anywhere. All these things are being worked on and improved. And you can imagine, right? This is why we're expanding our team. This is why we're starting the process of job searching, because we do need more team members to help continue to grow and expand into this ecosystem. And again, that is the entire point of having a decentralized ecosystem of these different services, is that you can grow an ecosystem, right? That's the entire point. And within that, Sphere being at the center with all of these different revenue streams coming back to Sphere and being able to be used to fund Bernie, and of course, as I mentioned, Galaxy Marketplace, Dyson being in essence automatically used for Dyson, and I think possibly in part Galaxy Marketplace, though that may also be manual. I'm not sure on that. Sorry, Sim. But in a nutshell, yeah, Fred and Carl, exactly, going to buying and burning Sphere. So I think I've spoken enough on that. Getting yelled at here. No. Connecting. I see Marketplace. Auto Magic, yes. So Galaxy Marketplace is Auto Magic. So there's no manual buying and burning within that. And that'll come up actually later in one of the Discord AMA questions that I'll talk about. So, all right. Last thing within Sphere itself, the communication streams. We're talking about Discord, everything that you guys talk about in Discord, all of these discussions, that is what the moderators are there for, to look through these different discussions, collect information, compile it into the voice of the community document that I have to review for these AMAs. So we want you to feel heard, because you are heard, right? This is one of the ways we're trying to address that communication, enhance that communication. Of course, I have my videos that I put out to help improve education as well. And by the way, guys, if you have suggestions for types of video content you would like to see, or questions you'd like addressed in those videos, feel free to reach out to me. You can tag me or put it in the suggestions tab, and I'm more than happy to take a look at those. And if I feel that it's fitting with the general vibe of where we are, then I'll be more than happy to make a video to help address your question or concern. Ferrets, lots of ferrets, yes. I opened the floodgates. I did. And if it becomes an issue, we can always come back on it. But I want to be reachable. I want to be people to feel that they can voice their concerns and open up their questions. And if I can reasonably respond to it, I will. Too late, buddy. Yeah. All right. Well, moving swiftly forward. Of course, the AMA is part of this as well. Communication streams. This is about you guys in the community. So, all right. So next part, before we do, let me just take a sip of tea, everyone. Very good. Okay. I not falling asleep. Good. Yes. Nothing like a cup of tea. I did not spill it. How dare you? Okay. V3 and beyond. This is what everyone is looking for, right? So V3 and beyond, what's going on with V3 and beyond? So one of the questions within this was about the liquid market, incentives for pen and unknown, and kind of how that's going to be addressed. Like, what is the reason Like, why would I stake my pen into liquid markets versus just staking it into Penrose? And, I described this a little bit in my liquid market video, but I think I lost a lot of people with that video because it is a bit of a complex mechanism to fully explain. But I guarantee you, once it's there, it'll be in front of you. It'll be very easy to understand and kind of know how to use it. But yes, there's risk reduction in that you now no longer have to lock pen for 16 weeks to receive those rewards. But then there's also higher than normal rewards thanks to the strategy used. So, for example, you are able to get the rewards of the Pen W-Matic LP versus just Pen itself. So, just speaking more generally, yes, there's definitely a lot of advantages to using the liquid market, especially for people who don't want to, go through all of these steps themselves. It makes things a lot easier, a lot more efficient for a lot of people. So it's very likely to be a very attractive product for a lot of people just due to its simple conveniency and ease of use. So, and just to hammer this home, hold on. Un minuto, por favor. Oh, very good. Okay. Thank you. All right. Another point about liquid market that I thought was a good way to describe it. The liquid market is basically the convex to the entire Sphere ecosystem, right? I think that's a better way to understand it. It's a way to kind of wrap everything within the Sphere ecosystem and benefit holders and also receive bribes on top of that through our own marketplace to just provide multiple avenues of revenue for Sphere holders. And people who don't even hold Sphere necessarily will be able to use these. Let's say you're interested in Dystopia Penrose and you want those types of returns. No worries. And you want those types of returns, then you can do that through the liquid marketplace. So, we've created the bribe marketplace, we've created the liquid wrappers, and on top of that, we've created the one token to wrap them all, which is VE Sphere, right? VE Sphere is a way to wrap all of these different tokens, hold all of these tokens. Yes, the one token to rule them all is VE Sphere. And then, of course, with liquid marketplace, you then have a way to have a liquid version of the wrapper itself. So it's going to be very, very fascinating, I think, as this starts to roll out. I know that the question is, of course, then when. It's a complex system, guys. There's a lot of moving parts. It will take time. As I mentioned, I think in my last video or the one before that, we have to wait on other external factors as well. For example, a DEX that can deal with unbalanced liquidity pools. So these are things that we have to also wait on, but we can, of course, put in our work and make sure that these products are set when the time is right. Okay. All right. And then I think a lot of people actually had this question. So, and then let's see here, just a second. Weighted pools, not unbalanced. Thank you, Sim. Yeah. So, I've referred to them as unbalanced pools, but that's the incorrect term. It's actually weighted pools. So we're waiting for a DEX that can deal with weighted pools versus the traditional 50-50. Okay. All righty. And where was I? Yes. Okay. So the last portion for this week for the voice of the community was concerns about the Dyson farm and selling pressure. So, for example, if you have the Dyson farm and an auto compounder for the Penrose ecosystem, will that not put selling pressure onto Penrose? And the answer is yes, but other strategies are there beyond just auto compounding that can help compensate for that. For example, maximizer vaults. So one example would be selling DYST for Matic and then pairing Pen and W-Matic. That's just a general example, but you have your auto compounders, yes, but Dyson Farm is it's not just an auto compounder. There's other strategies within that make use of the ecosystem. So while there may be some selling pressure, the reality is that there's going to be selling pressure on these one way or another. That's just the whole point of a free market. There's buy pressure, there's sell pressure. But within Dyson Farms specifically, maximizer vaults take a different spin on it, as well as some of these other strategies that are used. So it's like the answer is yes, but essentially in terms of Dyson Farm and selling pressure. Okay. Let me see. Un momento. Also, Dyson will. One second. Right, yes. So the other point is that Dyson, it's not only meant to be utilized, and not only meant to be, it won't only be utilized for products within the Sphere ecosystem, but also throughout all of DeFi, right? We're not closing the doors off to Dyson Farm for strategies just within the Sphere ecosystem. These are going to be for a whole bunch of other different, for example, Balancer, using their strategies and having compounders or maximizers for Balancer, for example. So both within the ecosystem and without. All right, another sip of tea here. As we transition to the Discord AMA questions. So I do slurp, and I'm doing it on purpose. All right. Very good. The big old slurp. Don't tempt me. I will abuse this microphone. All right. For the Discord AMA sections, I'm going to actually go down to them so that I can read them off and then refer to my notes. So I believe it's in support. No, I believe I've passed it already. Oh dear. Here we go. AMA questions. All right. So this is where, by the way, in the future as well, so it looks like we have some new messages I haven't read yet, which will be fun. In the future, moving forward, we're also doing really good on time, by the way. We're about halfway through. I think that's appropriate. We'll probably still get to some questions, some of the questions you guys have right now. But so let me move through these questions, but one at a time. So Ferret asked, what does the team plan for unknown in terms of liquidity and the amount of locked cone? And just in general, this is kind of why I was talking about, the team is working on these products, both front end and back end. And the general condition of the market is just conducive for liquidity exiting, not for liquidity entering. So there's a couple of parts to this particular question. For Plob, we got a few questions here. Circulating supply, regular burns. So absolutely right. That's the point of Bernie. Dyson, Galaxy Marketplace. These are going to be regular burns. I wasn't quite sure about this question in terms of an airdrop done. So if you're referring to VE Sphere and Sphere V3, don't forget that we have a proxy contract for Sphere. So we're able to change the underlying token without changing the Sphere token. So there won't be any airdrop necessary. So if anyone is messaging you about an airdrop or anything, it's probably a scam. Okay, unless it's in the announcement section of Sphere Finance on Discord, it's a scam. All right. Current levels of revenue being generated, able to sustain expenses, treasury withdrawals. So one thing I wanted to mention on this is the dashboard's very helpful for providing that information about how much the Sphere treasury is making, but it's actually incomplete. So we'll get to this a little bit later, I think. Where is it? Yeah, we get to it a little bit later. So I'll hold off on talking about that. But basically, the dashboard is not fully up to date, but we're thriving and we're looking for other people to hire into Sphere. So I hope that should tell you something about the performance. And then a comment in terms of multi-sig and causing delays and Bernie getting funds. This is actually a good thing, right? If you think about it, we need a multi-sig to protect security and provide transparency within the ecosystem. And if it takes a couple of days or takes some time and delays things getting done, I think that's a reasonable sacrifice for security. Now we know we've talked about Bernie's improved logic, the Dyson Farm, Galaxy Marketplace, how they auto magically are used to buy and burn Sphere. So I think these things will become less concerning as time moves on, but just to make a point on that. Will you be able to see your debt or the money we have in Prion when it is released? I would say yes, because it is for collateralized loans, and part of that is being able to see how much debt you have. In terms of reworking Sphere and Sphere games, nothing official on this yet, but I just want to kind of point out that we're going to have Sphere v3 with VE Sphere, and VE Sphere or SP Sphere, if you use Liquid Marketplace, is going to be yield bearing. So, for example, why would I stake in Sphere games if I could stake as VE Sphere or SP Sphere and actually be earning the rewards of the entire ecosystem? So again, nothing official on this, but I would say just think on that. What I mentioned. All right. In the short term, are there any plans to tackle the negative community sentiment and lack of confidence? So yeah, oh yeah. So you can't code confidence, but you can code with confidence. So again, Sphere is building its ecosystem around very sound, solid infrastructural projects. And the market is as the market is right now. I showed you the price of Curve, CVX, how it's down over 90%. This is one of the best, most well-known DeFi projects, and it's also bleeding out. It's just where we are with the where the market is. So we have to keep calm and carry on and code with confidence, because we know what we're doing and we know what we're building at the end of the day. And part of the addressing the community sentiment is through these community AMAs. So we're hoping to address that through exactly that. So this was something to mention as well in terms of what were to happen if something tragic were to happen to Sim. Obviously, hope that does not happen. We don't wish that on anybody. Sim has created this vision of Sphere and is able to collaborate with all of these different people. So, Sim is integral and holds the vision of Sphere, but, this is an ecosystem that we are building, and this ecosystem is able to carry on, as it is. So that's what I'll say about that. We are already a thriving ecosystem despite the bear market. And despite the price action, there is such a thing as being undervalued. Let me see. Yeah. The vision. So, just another further comment on this. The vision of Sphere is decentralized at the end of the day, and the team knows that vision. So, enough said on that. All right, planning to sell Sphere obtained from Texas using, hold on un momento por favor. Oh. Okay. Integrate it into the flow. Okay, so I'll do my best. Sorry, I'm getting messages from up above. No, okay. So, all right. Where are we? Yes, in terms of Galaxy Marketplace. Oh yeah, I thought this was actually a really interesting question. So, planning to sell Sphere obtained from Texas using Galaxy bonds. Well, right now we're only releasing buy bonds, meaning you can buy Sphere with USDC, for example. And then in terms of buyback burning and then potentially insider trading that, well, one thing is that don't forget that there's still a sell tax on Sphere. So if you have a increase in price by 1 or 2% and you have a 25% sell tax, for example, I'm not sure how much insider trading you can do there, but that's not really the point. The point of this question really is that the whole point of improving the logic of Bernie and having products like Galaxy Marketplace and Dyson that are automatically running is that you don't have to have someone who's sitting there clicking next when you have a burn, for example. You don't have to have someone doing that. You can refill the funds on Bernie. You can set up the Galaxy Marketplace and Dyson, and then you just let them do their thing. So no one is there saying, this is the time that we're going to buy and burn, so you better get in now. You see what I mean? And everyone is aware about these different burn mechanisms. This is public knowledge. So, all right, Harambe. With Bernie's funds being reliant upon dystopian Penrose, should we be concerned? And what happens if the TVL is depleted? Where will Bernie get his funds? So the Bernie's funds can be seeded from dystopian Penrose, but also from the Treasury. So we don't have to just use dystopian Penrose to seed Bernie. And then, of course, Bernie will be accompanied by the Galaxy Marketplace and Dyson to help continue that moving forward. I need another tea break. Delicious. Okay. All right. Are there performance issues with Dyson and dialogue about moving away from Dystopia? And dialogue about moving away from Dystopia is something the team is concerned about with respect to the long-term vision of liquidity as a service. So I didn't fully understand this question, I will be honest, but in terms of the way Dystopia is, of course it is being worked on, and Sphere is still on Polygon. Polygon is our home base, and liquidity as a service means building these products out for other chains. So other than that, I'm not sure exactly how to directly address this question. Whole bunch of questions here, so let's go through them. Why did Frax leave Dystopia? Frax is still in Dystopia. You can check that and see. And the dashboard store buggy, we're aware of bugs and working on fixes. In terms of Tet2 v2 and Sphere v3, don't forget that Tet2 and Sphere are two separate entities, right? We're partners in this. We are not the same entity. So, that's something to be aware of as well. So there are certainly differences between these two. What is Sphere's unique and original unique selling point? I would still go back to the S&P 500 of crypto on this. It's still on our front page. Store value with forced depreciation. This is the narrative that we've been discussing this entire time, and that hasn't changed, right? We are building an ecosystem, and that ecosystem is sharing its revenue into the Sphere treasury, and that is then being used to buy and burn the Sphere token. So with Sphere, you have one token with exposure to a diversified portfolio. You get voting power within those different projects, and you have a deflationary asset. So, that's a pretty strong, unique selling point if I've ever seen one. And then in terms of projects Sphere sees as its competition role model, I'm not so sure on this one in terms of how I would say competition or role model, outside of saying that, all good DeFi projects are bringing something to the table. And, because these things are open source and, developers are brilliant people, they can figure through how these things are done and incorporate that in different ways. And it's not so much about competition then as it is about novelty and using other projects as inspiration to further develop and move these things forward. So that would be my comment on that. Are there any plans to lower sell taxes in the future, especially considering positive impact on volume? So I do recall, actually, in a past AMA, the possibility of lowering sell taxes is possible in the future, but we would need to wait for an increased market cap before we do that to promote, higher volume. So, possibility, but as of right now, that's not changed. So I'm sure there will be announcements in the future should that change. All right. Please provide an update on pen and unknown bribes. Like I mentioned, these are still being worked on. Situations with gas costs unknown. We are aware of those high gas costs. We have made changes to help bring those down, but Binance is not as cheap as Polygon. So that is one thing. If you find that Cone and Unknown are too expensive, then you can always transition to Dystopia Penrose. We are aware of those high gas fees. And then this is the similar question. So you guys can see kind of how we get a lot of these similar types of questions, but we understand it is a very painful time in the market right now. So are there any plans for stemming the decline of total value locked in volume on Dystopia and Cone? Similar types of answers, right? Our team is working on Dystopia, Cone, Penrose Unknown. Dystopia has their own way of trying to incentivize VEDYST. And of course, right now, everyone is searching how to remove liquidity from the markets, protect their liquidity, rather than put it into the markets and look at it growing. That's just how the market is right now, and we have to live with that and work through it. Okay. So, Mellow, strategy to help raise TVL. I've addressed this one. With all the change that you're in touch with, what aspects ecosystem will they support, and will they support the ecosystem? So I guess in terms of this, you're referring to what we've been calling liquidity as a service, and recall that these ecosystems are meant to provide additional streams of revenue to the Sphere treasury by providing valuable projects that help build infrastructure into DeFi. So that's kind of my way to address that question for you. With Sphere relevant innovations like liquidity as a service, V3, Dyson, will the code be open source in order to prevent forking and maintaining advantage? So, one thing that we've said from the beginning actually is that you can always fork the projects and the products, but you can't fork the whole ecosystem. I mean, you certainly could, but imagine the immense amount of work that you would need to make all of these different projects all together functioning in the same way. No one's going to go through the work and do that if they're just looking to fork something to make a quick buck. So, you like I said, you can fork the project, but you really cannot fork this ecosystem. Certainly good luck trying. Are you in serious talks? Any big players and chains? Yes, we've mentioned this before. All the different chains that we have been in touch with for these liquidity services for this infrastructure. So that is still a work in progress. There's a lot still being going into that as of now. How many NDAs do you have currently? What I'll say about that is that NDAs exist. And one other thing about this question here about open source. So the code of the contracts are open source, but the front end is not. But there's not much value currently in going open source for now because it does give a competitive edge. So that's another point to discuss within that. What aspects of the ecosystem you think will be a turning point for us where heads will turn and big investors take note of it? I actually really like this question. I actually really like this question because I think that, and I kind of referred it to as like a clock. Sphere's kind of like a clock. There's all these different parts that we're building, and right now everyone is seeing all these different pieces being put in place, and we're thinking like, why is that piece going there, and what is it doing? And I think once all those pieces are in place and you can actually see the clock and it's ticking, then people will look at it and recognize it as that clock, and I think that's going to be that turning point. Yeah. So that's what I think the turning point is going to be on that. What's the play with Red LC? As far as I know, we are working with them, and we'll continue to do so. So will there be more transparency in expenses? We have the Treasury dashboard. You can always check on the blockchain itself. We have all the different addresses listed out. You can read through where these transactions are going. So you can follow that for yourself. Will we have an updated roadmap with timelines? I believe Surma had posted something about that. So we are working on somewhat of a timeline, a roadmap to make it easier for people to see that. Transparency in multisig, again, you can easily search that on the blockchain. Can we have visibility on failed development projects? So, we kind of touched on this in terms of Dyson Farm, right, where we had been working with the team and we had to respectfully cancel that partnership. So, this does happen from time to time, and, we'll mention it when it's appropriate. All right. Has there been any research on downward sell pressure caused by auto compounders? Yeah, I kind of talked about this as well. So I think I've addressed that one. Any hints on, one second here, Polygon strategy, right? So any hints and plans on the next chains will be launched on. So I guess what I can say is that we're working with other chains. And then do we have research on ROI for bribes? So, in terms of that, what I wanted to comment with this on is that obviously the point of bribes is to incentivize liquidity. And usually for new starting up projects, it is better for them to actually bribe. It is more cost efficient, I'll say, for them to bribe those who already hold the token than to buy the token themselves. So we do anticipate that more of these bribes will come in. Right now in the bear market, because liquidity is constantly leaving, there's very little incentive for new developers to come in and start working in the DeFi space. But as the bull market starts to come back and turn around, that's going to change, right? That will start to expand more, and people are going to need to use these bribing systems. They're going to need to use this infrastructure to bribe their liquidity. So I think we'll see that coming up more in the future. Okay. All right. So then this was something we wanted to touch upon too. People asking about monthly revenue. So in general, what we can share is that teams' expenses and revenue. Hold on just one second. Actually, before I jump into that, the Treasury dashboard is actually, I think I mentioned this earlier, but the Treasury dashboard is not fully accurate in that it doesn't include everything in the Treasury that is being earned. So that's something to be aware of, take note of. But in terms of revenue, right now, team expenses revenue is approximately $100,000 per month. And if you take a look at the Treasury dashboard, I know it doesn't show everything, but we are making more than $100,000 per month. Plus, we do have additional in the Treasury that protocol revenue. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I take that back. I had misinterpreted my information on that. So protocol revenue is making well over $100,000 per month. If you go to the Enter app and go down to the dashboard and take a look at where that revenue, what revenue is coming in, I think right now it says either 60 or 70. Okay, increases. Okay, 60 or 70, but it doesn't show everything. So, all right, I'm getting caught in my own mistake there. So basically, protocol revenue is much greater than expenses at this time. In a nutshell, I apologize for that mix-up there. All right, will Preon be cross-chain, and will Sphere invest or build at all on the Cosmos ecosystem or the DAG ecosystem? So Preon is part of those liquidity services, but in terms of the Cosmos DAG ecosystem, I just have no comment on that at this time. Okay. Same with OVIX. No comment on that in this time. We are in contact with Optimism. Are there plans to board on more bribers? Yeah. So this is what I was mentioning as well a bit earlier in terms of this being a bit of a dry landscape for developers, right? This is a bear market. People are removing liquidity, not adding liquidity. So there's very little incentive for devs to build. But as that bull market starts to come back in, you start to get more devs, you start to get more projects. More projects need liquidity to function. So you're going to start getting more bribes through our liquidity services. Okay. Alrighty. So Denden, Sphere paired its LP with USD Plus, underlying asset to work, but what about quantum liquidity as a service? So one thing to note with this is that USD Plus is stable yield versus quantum liquidity as a service can expand to non-stable assets. And obviously that's very attractive to other protocols, especially in a bull market. In a bull market when the general momentum is up. So as things start to turn around, people who are interested in growing their liquidity will naturally be interested in quantum liquidity as a service, and USD Plus complements that in that it's a way to passively appreciate. But quantum liquidity and quantum liquidity as a service is really its own thing, right? It's its own way to push that forward. Okay. And we don't speak of VCs. It's going to acquire some governance overnight once it releases their governance token. I have no comment on that. I think that can be reasoned through. When can we apply to join the team? So you don't want to hear soon. Well, guess what? I'm sorry, Thun. If I say Thun, it's not soon. So yeah, we have to develop these jobs as well, right? We have to put together the pages. We have to piece these things together such that we know what we're looking for, we know what we can ask for, and it makes it easier for people to apply. So I'm sorry, but the answer is Thun. All right. And then Aqua thankfully posted that actual position. Oh, and yeah. So this is live, so you can search for those positions now and see what is there. All right. Oh, British price time. Yeah, please don't try to get me to do that because it's not good. Update with quantum liquidity. Not beyond what I had just mentioned. Okay. So let me go back to stage chat. So now at this point we do have about 6 minutes left, unfortunately. But in terms of questions, are there any questions that I can answer in the immediate time that I can assist with? So let me see here. Okay. Which is coming with grants per month. I don't have much comment on that, unfortunately.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
What's up?
Hi.
Very good job so far, Prize.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you doing this.
Welcome to the
You did
stage.
really well.
I'm just looking through. Let's see if there's any questions. Are you full-time now on Sphere Price time? I wish. I can say that I'm definitely here for the long term. Let's see. Can you clarify again regarding listing our ecosystem tokens on Dyson Farm? Oh yeah, for Surma. Actually, Sim, do you want to comment on that? In terms of
I don't really get what he means with that. Can you clarify again listing our ecosystem tokens and
yeah, so in the past we had said we would not be listing our or I think it was discussed, whether or not we would be listing, for example, Penrose strategies on Dyson Farm due to concerns for selling pressure.
Well, yeah, I agree, but due to, let's say, internal discussions, we have seen that even the Dystopia / Cone team has built a sort of auto compounder on top of their strategies, for example, a Tattoo for the Binance solution. And to give like this, because it's all still the open market, it's sort of a little internal competition. They, for instance, take 50% of the Cone and lock it to gain governance more, so they become a small convex as well. To promote decentralization, because you don't only want to have, let's say, only Penrose taking over from a standpoint of being the curve. You don't want to only have one player having the majority of governance. So they have built another decentralized solution on top. So that we can compete in that sense, we have to adapt and build it on top as well. But effectively, we're not selling the pen. What we're doing is we are selling the underlying dist for more Matic, and then we create a pen W Matic LP in our maximizers, which in return attract liquidity for pen and gives a good yield to the users, who then are more inclined to use our products over anyone else's.
Right.
It's like, there is no curve wars if it's just one person, if it makes sense. And to incentivize this, these wars in a sense, you have to have like someone on the other side that you fight with, right? And we are taking matters in our own hands, and we want to promote decentralization and more entities coming together, building unique solutions to attract, for instance, DIS tokens into their own ecosystem, and that is a very good thing that we're doing this. And we have to scale up as we see the warfare that is happening around us.
Yeah, yeah.
So for anyone asking, we are just prepping up.
It's I think it's hard, right? For if you're if you're a sphere holder and you're seeing the price decline, first off, it's very painful to see that. And second off, you want to either take action or see action being taken. And when all of that action is being taken behind the scenes, at least from your vantage point, I understand that that can be very difficult. But that's kind of the point of these community AMAs and trying to answer these questions, is that we want to assure you that we are working on these things and we're aware of these issues in terms of bugs, concerns, and we want you to know that you're appreciated in this, because your feedback is fantastic. We of course appreciate your support, and yeah, that's the point of us reaching out this way.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I actually hopped on the stage for one particular reason. Um, First of all, stick around. I believe Lilo's gonna be posting something quite juicy in a few. One more thing is you can see the timeline and direction right now. It's the light version. So you can see like phase 0.09, phase 1.0, phase 1.1, phase 1.2. It's like a sort of let's say a light mode of what we're doing. Because people have been asking like where are we currently in the progress stage, what is going to be happening in the future. So that is already added. The careers page, you can apply for a job, working at Sphere, and see what is happening behind the scenes, become a big chunk of of the team, and if you think you can contribute, then you're very welcome to try your luck and join us. Next thing is watch the announcements that Lilo's gonna be posting.
Excellent.
Is this a prompt for me to post right now, or?
It's for sure not. Just stick around.
Yeah, I'm just making sure.
All right. Well, it is 7 p.m. Eastern time. That means it is 1 a.m. in CET. So I think we should wrap things up, but appreciate everyone who is here and listening. This has been streaming to YouTube, so once I stop, it'll render and then be available for watching later on YouTube. And I'll look forward to talking with everyone next week.
Yes, sir. Appreciate your price. Take care.
You guys too.
Everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one. See you. Bye.